who is the best driver in the world? Well, the easy answer is it's the current Formula 1 world champion, Max Verstappen. Even with the pencil of Adrian Newey helping pave the way for utter domination since the start of 2022, this guy has been an absolute once-in-a-generation freak of nature since day one and is already a living legend of the sport. And don't at me about that, y'all see the light one day. His ice-cold demeanor in the car is matched by few others. If you give this guy an inch, he'll take 1,000 miles. Because Formula 1 is regarded as the pinnacle of motorsport to a lot of people, right now at least, he is the best racing driver in the world. But not to everyone. A lot of F1 diehards look upon the sport of NASCAR as a complete joke. A bunch of rednecks running around in circles with no regard for the rules, if there even are any, and no technical prowess required to haul one of these things around when all it is planting the throttle, staring left, saluting the red, white, and blue as they all pay tribute to Danica Patrick. But really, that's just not true. No one pays tribute to Danica Patrick. If there is a driver, however, that this community loves more than God and guns, it's this guy, the driver of the number 5 Hendricks Motorsport Chevy, arguably the top team in what is definitely the top tier of American auto racing. His name is Kyle Larson, and according to himself, he is the best all-round racing driver in the world, and it is an opinion that has sent the internet into a furor. Then again, almost anything nowadays would send the internet into a frenzy. I mean, my video on Cars 2, yeah, that. About that, I just want to say, for those who violently disagree with me over that mess of a film, I would just like to apologize.
To absolutely nobody!
But we're not here to talk about me being a Poundland Roger Ebert. We're here to talk about Kyle Larson and whether he really is the best in the world, whether he's better than the likes of Max Verstappen. So, is he or ain't he? And if he ain't, who is? Well, to answer that, we've got to get a basis for who this guy actually is. Ever since he was a teenager and finally reached a height of above 4'11", Larson started racing on the dirt oval scene, driving everything from speed cars to silver crowns to those maniacal sprint cars. Again, a pessimist may look at the setup and ask, what in the hell is so tricky about racing these things around these tracks? It looks easy. Well, Jesus. Imagine putting 11 million horsepower into the ground on a loose surface on a track the size of a football field in a car that weighs about the same as Michael Cera in a hunger strike. They say these things only want to turn left, but in actuality, they really just want to fly. It means that only those who can keep the car on the ragged edge without throwing it into the catch fencing will succeed. And as you may have guessed, right from the start, Larson had this down. He just kept winning in everything there was to win, too many to list right now, and made himself a household name wherever he raced in the world. But while speedway racing is good fun, you couldn't really blame him if he wanted to begin the pursuit of the almighty dollar, and thus transition to stock car racing, very quickly ascending to the NASCAR Cup Series, driving for Chip Ganassi Racing. Now, Ganassi weren't the best team going around at this time, but they were still good enough for him to show off his craft. By 2017, he had hit his stride. There was no denying how good this guy was at wheel. If he could just get into a better team, then surely there was nothing that could stop him, other than himself, of course. Well, come 2020, that's exactly what would happen. With just one word, Larson had destroyed his career. NASCAR and the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series indefinitely suspended him whilst he underwent sensitivity training. An array of sponsors fled, while Ganassi ultimately fired him. It was a nightmare for him, but he did realize what it meant and what he had to do. And ultimately, he did make proper efforts to make amends. Those whose opinions matter way more than any of ours vouched for him after the fact. And come 2021, his suspension was lifted by NASCAR, and he would make his return to the top tier of the sport, this time racing for arguably the best team on the grid. It was a self-funded campaign by Hendrick because, well, you can understand the apprehension by other sponsors at play, but also because that's just how much he valued Larson, and he repaid that gesture by winning 10 races that season and winning the overall championship. It was a hell of a redemption story for Larson, but it also did highlight his talent. That playoff run was the stuff of dreams, and still to this day, he continues to set the standard. And just for shits and giggles, he will dabble in the second tier time and again, winning more often than not, and that series is no cakewalk by any measure. But hold on. I hear you say, how is being successful in NASCAR that much to boast about? Is it really that hard to drive around an oval? Well, no. It's not that hard. What is hard is being competitive. To dance with these things on the razor's edge, where every microsecond matters, all while trying not to unalive the tires, while the Dirty Air and the Joey Logano's attempt to extend you a one-way ticket to the barrier is a task way harder than it sounds like. Some of the best drivers from across the globe have tried to come here, tried to take on these guys, even on circuits that are more their niche, and they still couldn't hang with them, never mind beat them. If you reckon you could pull this off, then I've got some oceanfront property in North Dakota to sell you. I'm also guessing you'd be able to fight a bear without taking any damage, or watch a Michael Bay film without questioning your self-worth. But anyway, we move. To this day, he still races on the dirt, still destroying the competition wherever he goes. Chili Bowls, Knoxville Nationals, you name it. Odds are, he got the dub in it. This guy has mastered the art of turning left, but there is something missing. Initially, early on in his career, he wanted to race on the IndyCar scene. It fell by the wayside, but thanks to his profile, he was able to secure his spot on the grid for the 2024 Indy 500. He may have ended up finishing 18th overall, but that result does deserve some context. Throughout the month of May, he was a constant presence at the top of the grid and would qualify in 5th overall, out-qualifying his highly regarded teammate, Pato O'Ward, and would end up leading the race for a little bit toward the tail end. It was astonishing stuff for an Indy 500 rookie. To those whose opinions matter, this debut impressed a lot of people, although not all that surprising when you think about it. He certainly has what it takes to eventually win the 500 one day, so long as the stars align there. But, I hear you say, how good is he at turning right? What a real knee slapper that is. Long story short, he is very good at turning the other way. Throughout NASCAR, he is constantly up the front on road course races and has won frequently there, making him one of the best road course racers throughout NASCAR, and there are some absolute ballers in that field. With more and more road courses being added to the calendar, this is something drivers nowadays have to be decent at, and once again, he is setting the standard. Apart from, perhaps, Shane Van Hamburglar. But hey, too much stock car for you? That's cool. We can talk about endurance racing, about prototypes, 24-hour racing, because Larson has won that too. In 2015, alongside Scott Dixon, Tony Kanaan, and Jamie McMurray, Larson won the 24-hour of Daytona, further expanding upon his winning portfolio. In literally everything he's ever driven, he has won, and he's won a lot. He's got a resume that far exceeds the vast majority of racing drivers around the world, and he's barely gone beyond the borders of the United States of cheese to do that. But how does any of this make him a better all-round driver than Max Verstappen? Well, here's what NASCAR Cup Series champ Kevin Harvick had to say about that.
The thing that I can tell you, that if Kyle Larson went to drive Max Verstappen's car, it wouldn't be but 1 or 2 days and he would be damn close to being as fast as Max Verstappen. But there is no way that Max Verstappen comes up over here and does that in a stock car. I think Max has, he's extremely talented and very, very good at what he does for his discipline. I heard him talk about drivers being specialized in their discipline. That's not Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson can go out and drive anything. He's very good at his discipline, right? But he's got multiple disciplines. I truly believe that Max would do okay, but he's not going to do anything anywhere close to what Kyle Larson does.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Now, Harvick's opinion does matter. He's not an imbecile, much, and that guy's trophy cabinet is good. But to say that Larson would be damn close to being as fast as Max within 1 to 2 days is a hell of a stretch. We have had multiple drivers now who have won junior European championships and have been in the system since they were a fetus, who can't even do that themselves. And you're expecting Larson, greener than goose in Europe, to come over and do what they couldn't? That is not fair on Kyle, and it is willfully ignorant of what Max is capable of. On the other hand, to extend an olive branch here, what you could guarantee is that he for damn sure would set respectable times that would make you seriously consider evaluating him for a proper seat. Although to get him up to speed would take a season or two, and as we saw from Michael Andretti in 1993 or Logan Sargent from this year, that'll go down like a DC-10 in the 70s. It is true that Larson has done more across more disciplines than Max has done, but that has not been on a part of unwillingness from Max. We keep on hearing him yap on about how he's not going to be in F1 for much longer. This guy is bored shitless. He does want to race in other disciplines such as GT racing, rallying, lawnmower racing, just anything really. He's a racer at heart, much like Larson is. Really, these guys are two sides of the same coin. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if he did want to try NASCAR. And for Harvick to say that he wouldn't be close to what Larson is within that 1 to 2 day period, he is to an extent right there, because it's a totally different art. And a lot of prodigies in open wheel racing who have made the transition over to NASCAR took years to get up to speed. It's unfair to expect any of these guys to just come over to their territories and expect to shit in their kennels right away. But you know, Harvick lamenting the ignorance and arrogance of Europeans toward NASCAR drivers? Well, genius. How is what you said any better? Larson is a master of his craft, as is Max. We praised Larson for his versatility, but if that's the leg you're gonna stand on, should we not also start to applaud the likes of Fernando Alonso and Shane Van Gisbergen for them basically racing anything with 4 wheels and winning in all of them? We're all so enclosed in our bubbles and we just don't seem to want to give other disciplines their due respect. But objectively speaking, now that we know what we know, I guess now is time to pose the question. Is Kyle Larson one of the absolute best in the world? Without a question or shadow of doubt. But is he a better all-round racing driver than Max Verstappen? Hell, is he the best all-round driver in the world? I mean, it's impossible to tell, and that goes for anyone. I mean, how the hell can you judge something like that? What's your basis? What metrics do you use to determine that? As far as I'm concerned, there's only one way to settle the score. Only one way to null and void this whole argument and truly determine who is the best all-round driver in the world. And this involves bringing up Cars 2 again. Now, yeah, the script was a mess, and I still hate it about as much as y'all hate me. But something from that film that I do like was the concept of the World Grand Prix. Gather the best racers in the world and put them together in a 3-race shootout across the globe on tracks with varying terrain. Have an elimination format with car detonating cameras and let's just call it the Motor Racing Hunger Games. If you could bring up something like that and gather a posse like this to headline the event, it'll make no money and will bankrupt anyone who puts coin into it. But at least we will have a definitive answer as to who is the best in the world, rather than pointless meanderings on social media accounts, podcasts, and YouTube channels. Anyways, thank you all for watching, don't be a manus, and I'll see you all later.